What's up, y'all? It's itsAK97, and welcome back to Makeup and Mental Health. Episode 12 here. I have been seeing 12 constantly, so 12 is my number right now. This week, we're going to be talking about conflict resolution because I don't know about y'all, but especially in this period of my life, it feels like I'm going through a ton of conflict in my interpersonal relationships. And you always are, but just, I don't know, this specific time in my life, it feels like there's miscommunications everywhere. Is Mercury in microbraids again? I don't know. I'm gonna ask the astrology girls. Before we get to that though, temperature check. How is y'all doing? Because I'm doing better. I'm giving myself a 7.7 for the day. I am definitely climbing out of that little hole that I was in momentarily. It was really a lack of gratitude that was fucking me up. And you can hope for more, you can manifest more, but please don't forget to be grateful for what you have. And I'm talking the stuff that you take for granted. If you can speak, if you can breathe air without assistance, or even with assistance, the fact that we're able to breathe, if you can walk, the fact that you're able to walk or otherwise move around, like, those are things that we take for granted. So just little stuff like that. Be sure to keep that in mind when you're in the process of wanting to elevate to the next stage. And on that note, I'm gonna give you my affirmation for today. I have my dick on the table when I said this one, right? I have the unmitigated gall to demand the most. That's this week's affirmation. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right. So, like I said, I've been going through some conflicts with people in my life lately. I think first things first is figuring out if you are even in conflict for real. Because I know a lot of the times I be in my head about stuff and I be assuming that either they know that there's something wrong or that maybe they're feeling or doing something that they're not actually feeling or doing. So please, first things first is maintaining an open line of communication. If you want to play them little mind games and make people guess because you just want them to understand or you just want them to know, fine. Do what you want to do. I ain't telling you what to do. I'm just saying it's a lot more effective to get your needs met when you simply ask for whatever those needs are. I was recently introduced to the conflict styles. The guy who made the assessment be charging, like, you gotta purchase to take the assessment. Fuck that. It makes shit accessible. Stop gatekeeping shit. But anyway, I took the assessment a while ago and I believe my results are still the same. I'm gonna put a little background something in this area. Okay, so in the different conflict styles, you can be competing. That's what I rank highest as. Competing is when you are highly assertive but low on cooperativeness. Then next, I score the highest for, because I'm not all just a lion. They call that one the lion. I don't remember the rest of them, so don't expect me to do the animal thing. Next in line is collaborating, which means you are high in assertiveness and cooperation. So that's next. Like, when I was answering this, I realized, like, yeah, there's a way that I am used to behaving, which is definitely that of the competitive person or the competitive conflict style, but I'm making waves. I'm doing better. So the goal is to be collaborative. Now, a lot of people think that compromising is also like something to strive for, which, yes, generally speaking, and there's no good bad here. There is more effective and less effective. I personally think that compromising too much is not effective. I understand that a healthy amount of compromise is needed in a lot of conflicts, but I'm the type of person that once we've talked about it and maybe we realize that we're on different pages about it, I'd be like, on certain issues, I'd be like, there is no compromise. Let's just dub it and stop speaking to one another. Like, oh, you just don't know how to engage in conflict. Arguably true. Maybe I don't know how to engage in proper conflict. However, I'm the type of person that don't like to waste my time. I don't like to waste my energy. And if I feel as though there are core differences in the way that we express ourselves and our needs and things like that, yeah, I'm gonna just head out. Next is the accommodating type that is unassertive and cooperative. So think of these as the people pleasers, or the self-abandoners. I forget who gave me that one, something on Instagram. Think if you thought of people pleasing as self-abandonment, you might want to clock your tea a lot quicker than if you call it people pleasing, because people pleasing just sound like, oh yeah, that's nice, I do that. No, you're abandoning yourself. And that's what the accommodating style, not being assertive, not sharing what your needs are, but just wanting to get along for the good of the group, that's what that is. Then there is avoiding, which is unassertive and uncooperative. You're not trying to resolve the issue, and you are not trying to cooperate. You just don't want to have the conflict at all. There's a negative connotation that goes along with the idea of conflict in general. Conflict does not have to be negative. Conflict is just people having different views, or it doesn't even have to be different views. It could be things left unsaid. And then there's conflict because people are misunderstanding silence, or there's just been shifts in things. I'm not gonna lie, I used to come from the camp of people who felt like if you are not going to engage in conflict resolution with me, then I have every right to turn the fuck up on you. And that is incorrect. No, you do not. Some people, for whatever reason, are more conflict avoidant than others. So when people are not trying to engage with you, just remember a time when you were not at your most confrontational. And by confrontation, I don't mean that with a negative connotation. I just mean, like, for me personally, right? I like to think that I'm very forward and I'm always ready for whatever it is, whenever it is. And even the way that I'm talking sounds very like, I don't want to smoke, I promise. But I'm usually ready to have the conversation. Right now, I'm actually experiencing for the first time in a while, or I don't know, it's notable how much I'm experiencing this, like, one residual hurt. Like, there's the conflict and I thought I was good by saying how I felt, and I still feel away. And so I'm just taking time to feel the way that I feel. And then also wanting to address something with someone, but I just don't feel like talking to them, to be completely honest. I don't feel like dealing with the stress that comes along with conflict resolution. It is very stressful. Stressful isn't the great word. Conflict resolution can be emotionally taxing. So sometimes you're not always in the mood. My point in all of this was, if you are somebody that finds yourself very like, let's go, like I'm ready to handle it right this second, just try to remember a time in which you couldn't handle it right then that second, and extend that grace back. One of my biggest things with conflict resolution is having as much direct communication as possible. And when I say direct communication, I mean, if y'all texting, stop arguing in the text. Stop arguing in the fucking text. Stop arguing in the fucking text, okay? If you, with a loved one, someone that you care about, someone who you want to sustain this relationship with, if y'all find yourself arguing with in the text, one of y'all got to be the bigger person and say, hey, look, this is not going anywhere. Let's do this conversation as in person as it gets. Sometimes we have loved ones or people that we're in conflict with that don't live in the same place as us. So if the closest you can get is FaceTime, a video chat, cool. Make a attempt to be as direct, meaning they can see your face and you can see their face, as possible. Emotional regulation and conflict resolution group. And for weeks now, we've been working with the Dear Man DBT tool, which I'm going to place a little pictographic right over here. I'm going to parse through them myself, though. D stands for describe. What's the situation? You want to describe it with as little judgment as possible, ideally none. I often read very heavily into people's behavior, especially if it's like silence or I'm not really hearing from the person. I always assume it's a problem. I always assume they have an issue with me. Still unpacking a lot of those wounds and limiting beliefs. I'm still unpacking some of those limiting beliefs that make me think that. However, that's how I am, right? So I would describe the situation by saying, hey, I could be really reading you. Those are all judgments. Hey, we haven't talked in a while, and I miss talking to you. Is everything okay? Something like that is, I think, a good way to describe the situation without necessarily putting your own feelings into it. Now, second step is expressing, that's the E, how does it make you feel? Use I statements. Me saying, I feel as though I don't really feel valued, or it seems like things have changed between us, is different from you saying, you've been switching up on me, I haven't heard from you, and this is such a time we always talk. You see how the first statement was like, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm just checking in to see if that's accurate. And the second statement is more like, yeah, bitch, I know what you're doing, and I'm here to clock your tea. That's not helpful. The A stands for assert. What do you want in the situation? So for my situation, I would like it if we can start speaking again more regularly. I have learned that, and I'm going to go over boundaries versus rules in a second, but making a request like, I never want to go that long without talking to you. I have learned, for me personally, that's not really fair, and that doesn't really get me the objective I'm looking for. I'd rather say something like, moving forward, like, are you in a space to connect more? I would really like to hear how you've been doing. That leaves it to, the moment and how do we move forward, but not necessarily trying to make these rules about how we gotta move from here on out, because things change. Reinforce is when you explain the positive effects of you getting what you want. So, it would really help me show up more for you and for us if I got more frequent communication. That's fair. Oh, what I'm doing here is fun. M, mindful. Keep focused on the goals. Don't get distracted. Don't be talking about, and last time we got into conflict, it was because, dude, don't bring up old shit. If the person starts to derail and talk about when they were hurt by your actions, and it's not wrong for them to also express that, but if they're expressing in that moment, it could very well be deflection. We want to make sure we are staying focused on the issue at hand. So it's perfectly fair to be like, hey, I want to hold space for you in that and how I made you feel, but I really need my needs addressed here first and able to do that. That's fair. Because we want to keep, when we're in conflict, if we start talking about every single which issue that could exist between two human beings, you run into very murky territory very quickly. Appear confident. This is an overlooked one, I feel like. Walk in a room with your dick on the table, with your pussy out. Like, you should be navigating the conversation with a certain level of assertiveness that lets them know that you're not playing, but also that you care about what they want to say, like just confidence in general about the conflict at hand. N is for negotiate, so be willing to negotiate. That's where that compromise comes into play. Sometimes we gotta give and take. Like, maybe my request would be, if I am making a request, like, could we speak every week? Then the person comes back and say, hey, actually, I can't commit to that, because sometimes I'll just go a week without saying nothing to you. And that's just what it is. Then I can be like, okay, maybe every month. Is that reasonable? Like, you got to be willing to go back and forth. So boundaries versus rules, right? A boundary guides your behavior, and a rule is trying to guide someone else's. Going with the example I gave earlier, if I wanted to make a rule of I need to hear from you every week, and actually fuck it, because that feels a little much to me. But if it's someone that I'm in an intimate relationship with, yeah, for overall I want to hear from you daily. But at least how did I get a new phone at 128 gigabytes of storage and I'm still having storage issues? iPhone, y'all be fucking playing and y'all not slick. As I was saying, I would want to hear from my lover or just anyone that I'm in that close of an intimate relationship with, like if we're calling each other best friend, if we're in an intimate relationship. I don't talk to all of my friends every day. There are friends that I'm accustomed to speaking to every day. It's not why we're here. So, I'm gonna stick with the example that I started with. So, if I want to have the rule of, hey, I need us to talk every day, or we can't be together. That's a rule, and that's an unfair one at that. Something more realistic would be, hey, I need to talk to people that I am more intimately involved with on a regular basis. Regular for me ranges somewhere between daily and at least a check-in every week. So I am not going to be able to engage in this level of intimacy with you if we can't talk that often. And that is tiptoeing on an ultimatum, which you should know are also not great. However, I think that one's a pretty safe. And baby, I don't have everything perfect, okay? I'm doing the best I can with synthesizing all of the information that I learned. But that doesn't mean the way that I'm doing it is perfect. I'm just trying my best. That's the bulk of what I wanted to say. We're gonna do a little speed through, and I'm gonna check in with y'all in a minute. I've identified one of my major limiting beliefs as if I voice my needs, people will abandon me. But unfortunately, I have the evidence to support that is true by the pretty vast track record of people abandoning me once conflict occurs. And that's why I'm just so big on, let's at least give it a shot. Let's try to talk. But I also recognize that I don't have the best conflict resolution skills. So everyone is a work in progress. Just be gracious with yourself and with others while we are working to try to connect our brains and our traumas and our past and all that. I'm about to go for a walk, and luckily this neighborhood, at least where I walk my dog, is pretty chill. But in my own neighborhood, I would have got a whole lot of, oh, where are you going? Oh, to the grocery store. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to the grocery store. That is it. That is all. Life is a runway. Life's a motherfucking fashion show. Get with it. Hopefully I gave you some good pointers about how to engage in healthy conflict resolution. Baby, I am still learning myself. I used to think that I was just the best ever at resolving conflict. And then, I don't know, in the last couple years, I've been doing a lot of introspection, and I've found that my manner of communicating and my conflict style is not always effective. And I'm not talking about when I crash out and go ballistic. I mean, in times that I genuinely thought I was coming with, the utmost compassion and all that shit, it turned out that I was not. I'm committed to lifelong growth. I'm committed to always doing better when I can. And I hope you are too. And that's all I got for this week. Be kind to yourself and don't take nobody's shit, including your own. I'm gonna be back with y'all next week.